She tried to throw a 40-person yacht party on my boat without even asking me. The HOA president. On my dock. With balloons, music, and a megaphone like she owned the damn lake. 10 minutes later, the sheriff was hauling her event off my property while she stood there shaking humiliated in front of everyone. But that was only the beginning. When I moved to Lakewood Estates, I thought I'd finally found peace. After 25 years in finance, late nights, deadlines, mergers that chewed through my sanity, I just wanted quiet mornings by the water. I bought a place overlooking the marina, a clean stretch of lake surrounded by perfect houses and manicured lawns. It was supposed to be my reward for surviving corporate America. I'd even saved for years to buy my yacht Serenity. 60 feet of steel teak and calm. It wasn't just a boat. It was a symbol of everything I'd earned. I never imagined it would become the center of a war. Lakewood Estates looked picture perfect. Gated entrance, private docks, a small cafe by the water. The kind of place that bragged about community spirit in glossy brochures. What those brochures didn't mention was the real power running the place, a woman named Sophia Brown. Sophia was the HOA president, and she'd been in charge for 7 straight years. That should have told me everything. Either she was irreplaceable, or everyone else was too exhausted to fight her. She was in her 50s, always dressed in a pink blazer and Pearl's clipboard in hand, like a general surveying her troops. My first day there, she didn't even say hello. Just, "You're parked 3 inches too close to the curb." That was the welcome committee. At first, I kept my head down. I paid the dues, waved at neighbors, minded my own business. I figured if I didn't make noise, the HOA would leave me alone. And for a while, that worked. I tinkered on Serenity, explored the lake, enjoyed the quiet. Then one day I stumbled on something odd. During a renovation, I checked my property deed and realized the marina, the docks, the shoreline, even the fueling station wasn't actually owned by the HOA. It was still listed under the original developer's company. Out of curiosity, I called the county office, confirmed it, then learned the developer was planning to sell. So I bought it. Legally. Quietly. Every inch of it. For 2 years no one knew, and life was blissfully calm until Sophia saw Serenity. She showed up one morning while I was polishing the rails. Heels clicking, arms crossed, sunglasses flashing like warning lights. "That's new," she said. "Sure is," I replied. "Very community-spirited of you," she added, smiling that tight fake smile. "Boats in the Lakewood Marina are shared assets, you know." I actually laughed. "They're what you'll be hosting lake tours soon, I assume." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. A week later, the HOA newsletter arrived with a new section. Marina Sharing Program residents are encouraged to participate in shared lakefront amenities. And then a note taped to my door. Please submit your yacht's availability schedule for HOA reservations. That's when I called her. "Sophia." I said, "Serenity is private property. All marina assets fall under HOA oversight," she replied coolly. "You agreed when you bought in." "I didn't. Check the deed." She didn't miss a beat. "Submit the schedule anyway. We'll avoid unnecessary fines." That's when I realized who I was dealing with. Not just a control freak, a tyrant with a rulebook. Within days, she turned the neighborhood against me. Suddenly, I was the guy privatizing the lake. People stopped waving. The HOA meeting that month was a circus. Sophia stood up front like a queen addressing her court, talking about unity and shared spirit. When I raised my hand to object, "The marina is privately owned. HOA has no jurisdiction." She smiled like a shark. "Then you'll have no problem sharing voluntarily." They voted 67 to 33 in favor. That night I wrote a formal notice to the board. Any attempt to access my property will be considered trespassing. Sophia responded by fining me $500 a day for non-compliance. At first I tried to ignore her, but ignoring Sophia Brown was like ignoring termites. You don't see the damage until it's too late. Soon, HOA volunteers were driving by my house taking photos documenting violations. Emails arrived at 2 a.m. with subjects like "Community Harmony Reminder." It was harassment dressed up as paperwork. Then came the day she crossed the line completely. It was a Saturday morning when I heard music echoing across the water, bass laughter voices. I stepped onto my porch and froze. Down at the marina, 40 people were setting up tables and grills. On my dock, a woman was hanging balloons, and in the middle stood Sophia, clipboard in hand, megaphone slung over her shoulder, announcing, "Welcome to Community Yacht Day. Boarding begins at noon." 2 teenagers were prying open Serenity's gate. That was it. I marched down the hill, gravel crunching under my boots. When I reached the dock, she turned smiling like she'd been waiting for me. "Michael, you made it," she chirped. "You'll be happy to know your yacht's going to make quite the splash." I stopped 3 feet from her. My voice was calm but cold. "Sophia, get off my dock." She blinked. "Excuse me, you heard me? You and everyone else here are trespassing." She crossed her arms. "No, it's community property. The HOA voted. I don't care if you voted with the Pope. You don't own this marina. I do. And you're about 5 minutes away from getting a police escort off it." She smirked. "You wouldn't dare call the police on your neighbors." "Try me." I pulled out my phone and called the sheriff. 20 minutes later, 2 cruisers rolled in. The crowd scattered. Sophia stayed standing like a defiant statue. When the officer asked for ownership proof, I handed him my folder. Deed purchase agreement, county stamp. He flipped through the pages, nodded once, and turned to her. "Ma'am, this isn't HOA property. You and your guests need to leave." Her face froze. "That can't be right. The bylaws don't override county records," he said. The color drained from her face. Around us, people whispered. "He really owns it." That was the first time I saw Sophia Brown speechless. But silence didn't mean surrender. Within a week, I was drowning in new violation notices. Grass too long, porch light too bright, unsightly dock accessories. Someone even wrote, "HOA always wins," on an anonymous letter in my mailbox. That's when my neighbor Patricia knocked on my door, kind eyes full of worry. "She's calling an emergency meeting," she said. "Says it's to resolve the marina dispute." I laughed bitterly. Resolve? Yeah, right. The meeting was worse than I imagined. Sophia stood at the podium, eyes blazing. "Mr. Johnson refuses to cooperate with community guidelines," she declared. "His selfishness undermines everything Lakewood stands for." I stood up. "Everything Lakewood stands for, or everything you stand for?" Her face tightened. "You're out of order." "No, I said you are." I dropped copies of my ownership papers on the table. "Anyone who wants proof, read it yourself." The murmurs turned uneasy. People started whispering. Sophia slammed her gavel and adjourned the meeting, storming out. But her mask had cracked. That night, sitting on my porch, I stared at the lake and wondered if it was even worth it. Maybe I should sell the house, get out. She had the board, the neighbors the narrative. I had a piece of paper and a boat. Part of me wondered, was I the problem? Maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I was too stubborn. Then I saw the lights on Serenity's deck flicker across the water, and something in me hardened. No, she doesn't get to steal peace because she's loud enough. I wasn't fighting a neighbor, I was fighting control itself. Weeks later, I got the alert at 1:37 a.m. from my security cameras, 3 figures near the dock. I zoomed in. Teenagers prying open Serenity's engine hatch. I called 911. By the time deputies arrived, they were gone, but one had dropped a phone. The next morning, the officer held it up in an evidence bag. "Belongs to an Ethan Brown. Any relation? Sophia's son." I almost laughed. Oh, that's rich. 2 days later, Sophia called another meeting, trying to spin it. "These accusations about my family are false," she said, trembling. I stood up, connected my laptop to the projector, and hit play. The video showed everything: 3 boys sneaking down the dock, one of them clearly Ethan. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "That's her kid." Sophia's jaw dropped. "You're lying. The sheriff has his phone," I said. "Do you want to deny it on record?" She couldn't speak. That was the moment her empire started to crumble. After that, my lawyer Daniel said, "We're done playing defense. Time for phase 2. He drew up a full lawsuit against the HOA for harassment, defamation, property interference, and added Sophia personally. Then he slid another paper across the desk. "You can terminate the marina lease. It's symbolic $1 a year, but if they breach conduct, it's void." So I did. I dropped the notice in the HOA mailbox. Effective immediately, the HOA's lease of the marina is terminated due to violations of conduct. By sunset, the whole neighborhood knew. The gate locks were changed. A new sign hung. Private property trespassers will be prosecuted. The panic was instant. Neighbors who'd sided with Sophia flooded her inbox. You said this wouldn't affect us. Why can't we access our boats? For once, I wasn't the villain. That night, Sophia called an emergency meeting to restore community rights. I showed up with Daniel and the documents. Sophia tried to open with authority. We're here to nullify Mr. Johnson's so-called ownership. Daniel smiled. Actually, under your own bylaws, he has the right to present evidence. I placed the folder on the table. 2 years ago, I legally purchased the marina from the developer. Here's the deed. Here's the lease you've been operating under Section 6, says the lease can be revoked if the HOA violates conduct. Sophia's face turned chalk white. That's not binding, she snapped. It's notarized and filed, Daniel said. It's binding. I looked around the room. She's been lying to you. This wasn't about community, it was about control. I played the vandalism video again. Ethan's face froze on the big screen. Gasps erupted. Her last defense crumbled right there. A man named Harold White stood up. I move for a vote of no confidence in the current HOA president. Within minutes, ballots were passed around. The count was devastating 89% in favor of removal. Sophia didn't move. She just stared at the numbers, lips trembling. Effective immediately, Harold said Sophia Brown is removed as president of Lakewood Estates. Applause broke out. People clapped me on the shoulder as they left. Sophia gathered her papers with shaking hands and whispered, "You'll regret this." "I already did," I said. "Now it's your turn." She stormed out, heels clicking across the tile like fading thunder. The weeks that followed were pure karma. The new board audited HOA finances and found Sophia had been using community funds for personal expenses, flowers, patio furniture, even a team retreat that turned out to be a spa weekend. Her husband filed for divorce. Her son faced felony vandalism charges. She, the self-crowned queen of Lakewood Estates, was suddenly the town pariah. The board issued a public apology and settled my lawsuit, $50,000 full recognition of my marina ownership and a permanent end to HOA interference. Sophia moved out quietly 3 months later. No farewell, no speech, just moving trucks on a cloudy morning. People watched from their porches but said nothing. When her SUV finally disappeared past the gate, the neighborhood exhaled. That evening I walked down to the dock. The water was calm again, gold under the setting sun. Serenity rocked gently, peaceful, untouchable. After months of chaos, silence felt strange, like the world was holding its breath. Patricia joined me carrying a plate of cookies. "You gave this place its backbone again," she said. I smiled. "Let's hope it keeps it." As she left, I stood there alone, the lake shimmering in the twilight. I thought about everything, the fines, the threats, the lies, the way she'd twisted rules into weapons. All because someone finally said no. I poured myself a drink, leaned against the rail and whispered, "Here's to boundaries, and to remembering who owns the dock." Some people think power means control, but real power, real peace comes from knowing when to stand your ground and never letting fear sign your name for you.